Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name's Emily, I'm an artist, and today we are going to be doing a digital drawing of some figs. So this is going to be my September drawing, and I think for me figs just feel very transitional. They feel I don't know what it is about them, because I feel like they grow in the height of summer, but I think maybe it's the colours of them, like the purpley deep tones and then like the pink interior. I feel like it just gives me September, late summer vibes. So that's what we are drawing today. I actually picked up these figs from Lidl, shockingly enough. I was pretty surprised actually to see them in there. I did not expect Lidl to sell me figs, but they were 59 pence each. And a girl cannot say no to a bargain, and that to me felt like a bargain. I swear, like last year, I went to Waitrose, which is what I like to call Waitrose, and I paid like £2.50 for like 3 figs, I swear. So I am all for a little bargain, and 60 pence to me for a fig feels like a bargain. And don't worry, I didn't just use them straw, I obviously ate them as well. I made like this delicious fruity kind of compote thing out of, I had like loads of fruit, like random bits of fruit. Like I had one nectarine, I had an apple that I picked from a tree, I had obviously these figs, like just such a random selection. I had some frozen cherries as well in my freezer, obviously, because they're frozen. Just a bit of a random selection of fruit and veg. So instead of wasting them, I turned them into I turned them into a little compote thing. So yeah, it was pretty cool, and it was delicious and very tasty. And I'll put a little picture in here because you deserve to see that deliciousness as well. But yeah, a bit of technical details about what I'm drawing today. So I am using my iPad Pro 2020. This is the smaller, I think it's the 12.9-inch version. I believe that's the version name. And then I'm using an Apple Pencil 2nd generation. I start by using Procreate and then I move on to ArtSet4, the love of my life. I want to love Procreate because I feel like everyone is using Procreate. I feel like Clip Studio Paint, yeah, that is what it's called, isn't it? Clip Studio Paint is like having a moment, but I feel like people are still diehard Procreate fans, and I want to be with them. I want to be a Procreate fan, but I just struggle. And you'll see here, like I even bought. Let me backtrack. The reasons I struggle to love Procreate. One, I feel like the built-in brushes are naff. I think they are rubbish. Well, okay, maybe not rubbish. No. I think they're rubbish. I think they're pretty naff. I think if you're trying to emulate a real life, kind of like oil painting style or painting style, I just think they don't look good. I think if you like not painting, if you like pencils and you like marker pens, I think they've got some quite good versions of those. But I just do not like the paintbrush options that they have built in. And I personally I just hate when you have to constantly be upgrading your apps or buying new stuff for your apps or subscriptions. Like anything for me that needs a subscription can get in the bin. I'm not here for it. Like, what do you mean I have to pay monthly for the rest of eternity? Like, I just don't understand. I just can't get behind that. I can't. I appreciate that obviously Procreate, you can just buy it once, but it feels like you don't just buy it once, because you buy it once and then you buy like a million brushes for it. And again, I understand that if you've found your dream brushes and you use them and it's amazing, then you're not going to buy any more brushes, and I understand that as a premise. But I feel like, will it ever be enough? Will you ever be like, I never need to buy another brush again? I don't know if that's the case. I feel like that's not the case for people. I feel like people are I feel that people are forever looking for the next best brush, and it's just I'm just not here for it. I want an app where I open up the brushes and I love them immediately. And for me, ArtSet4 is my love. I love it so much. And I don't understand why I never hear anything about it. I literally never hear anyone talking about ArtSet4, and I just think it's so good. It's just nothing compares, in my opinion, to ArtSet4. I think Procreate has some really cool features. I like the grid, like the what is it called? The canvas tools. So you can see, I don't know where we are in the video, but you'll be able to see here somewhere that I used was it Art Tutor or Art Grid tool? I don't think Art Tutor might have like stopped their website because I couldn't find them when I looked at them, and they were my favourite for getting a grid. But anyway, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is when you set up your canvas, you can get a grid, which I really like. I think that's a really good feature in Procreate. And I like to use Procreate for like preliminary sketches or like design sketches or sketches that are more accurate, I guess I want to say. Like anytime I want to do a sketch that is like for our house, so we've been renovating our flat for like the last trillion years, and anytime I kind of want to do any planning for the flat, I like to use Procreate as my like drawing of choice. You can make a line, hold it down, and then it becomes a straight line, or like it becomes a smoother curve. I like the correctional features, and they kind of lend themselves to me to like more kind of like perfect drawing. I feel like if you're into like cartoony drawings, or you're into more like, yeah, just like more smooth drawings, I guess I want to say, like that kind of thing, I think then I really like Procreate for that. And yeah, I think that's a real strength for Procreate. But then I always feel like I'm missing something when I'm using Procreate. I always feel that there's like, oh, there must be something more, because I'm missing stuff. And I literally found out about ArtSet4 completely by accident. I think I saw she's an artist and creator, I want to say in the Philippines. But if I'm wrong, I will correct myself, but I'm pretty sure she's from the Philippines. I saw her drawing something. I can't remember what it was now. But I saw her drawing something and I was like, ooh, that app looks like something I need. And I have to say it was. I filmed my first ever reaction to it, and that genuinely was my first ever reaction to it. And I have to say, like, I literally have never looked back. And I keep going back. Well, I have looked back because I keep trying Procreate in the hopes, or I've tried Fresco as well, because Fresco is free, which I really like. But I just can't. I can't bow down to the Adobe overlords. Again, the subscription thing. My goal for 2026 is to get rid of as many subscriptions as possible, because I saw this video on TikTok and it basically said, are we really going to be spending $8.99 on Amazon storage for the rest of our lives? And I was like, I thought about it for a moment and I was like, oh no, that is actually so true. Can I really spend like $8.99 for the rest of my eternity on stuff? Like, and I feel the same way about Adobe. Like, when I had the student version, obviously when I was a student. I had the student version when I was a student, obviously, and that was $16.99, I want to say. I think so. I think it was like $16.99. And then after a year, what they don't tell you in the fine print is that it goes up to £28.99, and mine was reduced. And then, so basically I was a student and then I became a teacher, an educator, and so I still get a discount. So, and I paid that for a year, and I was just like, why am I paying £29 a month a year? Not a year, £29 a month. Like, I actually don't even want to think about how much that is in a year. And I tried to get out of the contract early, and I had to finish. If I wanted to get out of it early, I had to pay more the rest of the contract. I didn't even realise I was in a contract. So yeah, I can't. I don't want to do it. I don't want to be part of the subscription. So for me, an app where I can just pay and then that's it, I'm done, I'm here for. So I actually switched from like the Adobe suite to Affinity. So for like my Photoshop publisher, and they have a designer as well, all of those I now use Affinity rather than the Adobe equivalent, and I really like it. I mean, I'm not that great at using them, but that's not Affinity's fault, nor would it have been Adobe's fault. For my needs, it's just fine. and it's better than Canva, and it feels a lot like, you know, a lot like Photoshop or like Illustrator or whatever. It's obvious to me that there's been a little bit of inspiration from the OGs, but I think it's really good. I really like it. And I sort of messed up. I tried to buy the premium version of just Publisher, I think. And I think, oh no, I remember what it was. So I got confused, so don't make the same mistake I did. I thought that you could buy the premium versions of all of them and the iPad versions for only Mac for £60. I didn't realise that it was like I was only buying the Publisher for Mac only for £60. I don't know why. I just didn't read it properly, but I had to buy the iPad suite. So I just messed it up basically. I should have just paid the £150 that it is. I think it's like £157 for the whole suite, and I should have just paid it outright. But I was like, I was trying to be a cheapskate, and it bit me in the bum. So don't do what I did and just buy the whole suite, because you'll regret messing around and messing it up. So don't be like me. But I do really like Affinity, and don't let my confusion about which one I was purchasing put you off, because that was me being silly, not really their fault. So yeah, but I do really like it. But I am in this video obviously trying to give Procreate another go, because I want to like it, because I know it is what everyone uses, and I want to be a Procreate girly. I want to be part of that club, and I keep trying, and maybe one day I will get there. So if you have any like oil paint style brushes that you know of, then tell me, let me know, because I want to be there with them. I want to be that girl, but I'm not that girl right now. I'm somewhere else. I'm doing something else. And I bought this brush pack off Etsy, and it was cheap. It was like £1.62. Can you have it? There's a theme, isn't there, that I'm a cheapskate. But it was £1.62, and I was like, oh my god, amazing, that's so great. And then I saw the signature of it on like in the brush settings, and I think they've stolen this brush pack. I think they've stolen brushes from different people, and they've put it together in this brush pack. So that's not cool, and I've reported it. But yeah, so that was kind of annoying, because I would like to obviously support an artist and not support someone who is stealing someone else's art. So and there's like no returns on it. So that's kind of annoying. So double check as well that you are buying from the artist and you're not just buying random things from random people, because again, I was misguided, I was misled. But yeah. And the brushes, they didn't even look like the brushes that were advertised, or if they are, I can't discern which brushes were used in the pictures that they showed with it versus like what I've got in front of me. Maybe I'm wrong. So, but they were okay. It was fine. You know, they did the job, but I'm not gonna like link or recommend the place I got these brushes from, because I don't believe they were legitimate. I do believe they were actually just trying to rip other people off, which is annoying. So I'm starting off my painting here, and I think the one thing that I struggle with Procreate is that there isn't like a blending brush. I didn't realise how much of a chokehold blending brushes had on me until I like tried to use other apps. Like, it was the same when I tried to use Fresco. Fresco was fine, and Fresco did have a blending brush, but it just like it wasn't the same. I don't know. I don't know what it is about the ones that are on ArtSet4, but they're just so good. Like, it's like having a whole nother brush in a way that it just isn't. It just isn't on other apps. And honestly, I feel like ArtSet4 should be on everyone's radar and everyone should be using it, because the brushes, they're just so realistic, and you can blend. Like, the blending brushes are so good. I wish their blending brushes had more of a canvasy texture. Like, sometimes I feel like they smooth out my work too much, which is not really something I ever thought was going to be a problem. But yeah, I kind of wish that sometimes they had a bit more of a canvasy texture. But equally, there are loads of options, and I'm so grateful for them because they are so good. They're so, so good. I also think it's kind of crazy when I think back to, I don't know, I do a lot of reminiscing about the past. I hope I'm not alone in that, but sometimes I look back and I think about my time in school. I think in part because I am a teacher, so I think about, well, what was I doing when I was in year 10, or what was I doing when I was in sixth form or in year 11 or whatever. And I look back at my art A level a lot as well, and I think to myself, and I just like, if she could see herself, if 17, 18-year-old Emily could see herself and see the artwork I make now, she would be so repulsed. Honestly, so repulsed. Like, I think it is crazy because when you're doing A-level art, you have to do, well, you don't have to, but it's easier to get marks if you are making like figurative work that obviously shows skill and an ability to draw, and it's easier to show what you're thinking, and show what artists inspire you, and show you your progression when the artwork you're producing is something that is like more recognizable. Recognizable is the right word. So I was doing a lot of that in my A level, and I was working really big. And I made like this sculpture. I'm not even sure I still have a photo of it, but I made this sculpture in year 12 of a ginormous tea bag with like plant tentacles growing out of it. So it was kind of like an octopus, but a tea bag with the tea plant growing out of it. Giant fabric sculpture octopus. And I really loved that. And then in year 12, I made a did I make it? Yes, I made another sculpture. Oh my god, she was called Camilla. She was so horrendous, but we live, love Camilla. My project was about tea, and it was like kind of a play on you are what you drink. So, or it was a play on you are what you eat, and I was kind of thinking, well, you are what you drink, and then if you are what you drink, if you drink a lot of tea, then you'll like become the plant of the tea. So I like drew my mum with like a tea plant coming out of her head, because like as she was drinking the tea, she was becoming the tea. And then the tea bag, like the plant was kind of coming out of the tea because it was all kind of one thing. And then I made this horrific sculpture bust thing. It was like polystyrene, and I bought this horrible polystyrene head off Amazon because I had no money, because I was like 18. No, I wasn't even 18, I was 16, and I had like a £5 an hour Saturday job, and I had no money for this. So I bought this like polystyrene head, and you know how polystyrene is like that texture. So it wasn't even smooth, and then I painted her like face really, really badly because I'd never painted like a 3D sculpture of a face before. And then I bought this like wig off eBay. So and then what else? Oh, she was wearing this like sarong with lino printed like versions of the tea bag sculpture I'd made. And then I had hollowed out her polystyrene head and put in this half dead actual tea plant in her head. And I'd like remember, could I drive then? I couldn't drive then. So I think I'd cycled. Did I even have a bike? Maybe I got the bus. No, I must have got the bus. I don't think I cycled. I hate cycling. I'm not a cyclist. So I must have got the bus. I think I got the bus. It was really far, if I remember correctly, to this random like plant nursery where I got this tea plant from, because it was literally the only place I could find that sold these tea plants. And then I accumulated that all together, and I mean, it was horrible. It was really, really horrible. And I just remember like we presented our work. So we did like a mock exam and we presented our work, and I presented Camilla, and as I was presenting her to my art teacher, she like she fell face down onto herself and like smushed her nose, and my art teacher just looked at me like, what the hell have you created? But I remember not caring at all because I thought it was hilarious, and I didn't really like art and I didn't really like her, so I was just like, yeah, whatever, mate. This is what I've created. This is my masterpiece for you to mark. And she was so unimpressed. On reflection, she wasn't that bad, but you know, I was 17, and you know, whatever. I just was not into it, but that was the kind of art I was making when I was 17, and I when I was in year 12, I made that more. It was more outlandish what I made. I did like some traditional drawings, but I was trying to make like big sculptures. The bigger the better, the more outlandish the better. The more irritated my art teacher looked by my suggestions, the more it brought me immense joy. And that was kind of my mission. And then in year 11, I sort of conformed a bit more. I was doing a bit more painting. I did a project about the rain, I think. Yeah, I think it was about like, it was supposed to be about how a rainy day feels or something like that, something along those lines. What does a rainy day feel like? So I did like all these paintings on this scene. I don't know why, but I had these two massive, I got like a full sheet of MDF from B&Q. I got them to cut it in half for me, and then I dragged it. Yes, you heard that right. I dragged it from B&Q back to sixth form. Now, granted, it was maybe a 10-minute walk from B&Q to my sixth form. With these boards, it must have taken me, I think it was about an hour and a half. Why did I walk with two boards that were 120 centimetres square back to sixth form? What was I thinking? Like, I literally have no idea what was going through my mind when I thought that was a smashing idea. Like crazy, absolutely crazy. And of course, all of the corners were totally bashed up. I can't have been driving then because I would have driven them in the car. But it is just crazy to me. Like, why did I do that? I think that is mental. But anyway, I was doing a lot more painting, a lot more acrylic painting. And then my final piece, it was like this kind of geometric thing. So like I'd split up the page into several geometric shapes, and then I like painted something different in each of the shapes. So I had like a boot, and then I had like a collar, and then I had like the edge of a sock. Basically, I was painting I think my final project was called Boundaries or something. Yeah, I think it was Boundaries. And so I was like looking at the boundary line between of clothes. So I was looking at like where your hem stops or where your shoe stops or like that kind of thing. So I was looking at the boundaries of clothing. So that's what I was painting for my final piece. I don't even think I went ever and collected it because I was just like, this is crap, and I wasn't happy with it. And I wanted to create this like spinning sculpture-y thing with like loads of different options of like putting like making this Frankenstein person. So you'd like spin it and you get different like options. I can't even explain how it was, just a bit mental. My art teacher was like, no. My art teacher was basically like, no mate, you're not doing that. And at the time, again, I was annoyed, but on reflection, I equally remember about 3 weeks before my coursework deadline, and I had literally one finished drawing and one half finished drawing, which started out A0, so quite big, and as I got more and more bored of doing it and more unwilling to do it, I cut the board down more and more and more until I think it ended up being only about A3. And then I'm not even sure I finished it because I just didn't, I don't know, I just really didn't vibe with A-level art at all. And so it is kind of mental that I went and did an art degree. But, you know, I did a foundation and like, you know, lots of stuff happened in between that made me do that art degree. But that girl, my point being is that girl who was making that stuff and hated traditional art, and hated painting, and hated spending long amounts of time doing any kind of art. I wanted everything to be quick. I wanted everything to be like fast. I wanted it to be abstract. I wanted it to be big. And now I paint tiny, intricate, delicate, figurative, real, not necessarily realism, but like, you know, you can tell what it is, paintings on my iPad for hours. Like, I was the kind of artist that I despised when I was like 18, 19, 20. And so now I've become that person. So isn't that full circle? What a moment to realise that you have become what you hated. But I think it's for the best. I think, you know, we change and we develop, and our ideas change and develop, and we kind of, you know, grow as artists. And I really enjoy it now. I find it really cathartic to spend a lot of time on drawings and spend a lot of time adding the details in. And I never thought I would ever be really like fully converted to digital drawing, and I really am, like, genuinely. This drawing here, this fig drawing, was supposed to be an oil pastel drawing. I used to, when I first got back into art after finishing my degree. Okay, so I really got burnt out doing my degree. So my foundation year and the first half of my first year, I was like so excited. I was making work. I was really pleased. I was like loving it. And then COVID happened in the middle of my first year, and I went home and I worked basically in a care home. And then my second year rolled around and I didn't go onto campus once because we were like in and out of lockdown again, and everything I kind of was still online. And then by the time my third year rolled around, I was so over it. I was so over my degree. I was so ready for it to be done. And I started doing a little bit of painting in my third year. I like painted this one abstract piece. I will put a picture of that in because I do have a picture. And I made a film actually for my final piece. It was basically, well, out of context, this is going to sound a bit mental again, but I was basically putting blocks onto like a balanced board. I can't even remember why. It had relevance. I had relevance to something or other. But yeah, either way. So I was really burnt out. I was so burnt out making art. I just didn't want to do it anymore. I couldn't be bothered. I didn't have anything in me. And this kind of makes it sound like I didn't really like art a lot. But I think I've had a love-hate relationship with it. But I definitely, it's in my soul. It's my passion. So as soon as I handed in my final project, I pretty much stopped making any artwork for like 4 or 5 months. And I was well into doing my PGCE, and we were at the RWA Bristol. I think we were at the RWA, or we were at the museum, the art gallery, Bristol Art Gallery Museum, the one next to it. Either way, both are lovely. Would recommend visiting if you are in Bristol, at the top of Park Street by the Will Memorial Building. But we were in there and we did this workshop where we were drawing. We were asked to draw stuff, and I drew this sculpture of this like naked lady, and I picked up an oil pastel and I just loved it. I loved how bold it was. I loved how fast it was. I loved the texture it created. And I was just like, oh my God, I love it. This is amazing. And so I also realised at that point that no one was going to force me to make art anymore. No one was going to come and tell me, well, you need to make art now. You've got a deadline coming up. You need to make some art. No one was going to do that anymore. I had to be my own motivator, or else I was going to be in a position where I just never made art again. And I just couldn't let myself be in that position. I didn't want to be that. I still don't. I don't want to be a person that in 10, 20, 30 years time goes, oh, I used to make art. I used to like drawing. I used to be creative, and now I'm not creative anymore. And I'm like, that gives me the heebie-jeebies. That gives me the fears, the scaries. And so I realised in that kind of moment that I was like, oh no, I've got to like motivate myself to make art. So I started making using oil pastels, and I had a set of oil pastels already, so, and I know I did, so I dug them out. They're crap oil pastels, but at the time I just was like, I've got oil pastels, let me use those. So I was using those oil pastels, and I was like, what do I draw? And so at the time, again, I was quite into my plants, so I just like picked up one of my plants and I started drawing it. And well, you can see on my Instagram, I think, when that kind of like revelation starts to happen, it was like November-ish time of my PGCE year, so 2022, November-ish 2022, I was like starting to draw. Yeah, I just kept drawing, I just kept going. I loved the oil pastels and I kept using the oil pastels, and that was really amazing, and it really like relit a spark in me for making art. And as well, at that time, like, I had this little foldy down desk thing, and so I had the space, and I had a bit more I had more time, honestly. I had more time to be making art. Like, PGCs are tough, but I had way more time than I've had since I've been working as a teacher. And then in August 2023, we like decommissioned our lounge because we were like, we're going to renovate it soon. I don't know why I say that every time we're going to do this soon. If you take on a renovation project, just know that everything you say about your time frame, put it in the bin, because when we started our flat, we were like 6 months and it'll be done. 4 years later and we are still not done. So just want to put that out there. But yeah, so August 2023, naive, happy. We cut up our sofa. It was like an old sofa. We like get rid of the furniture that we randomly rush bought from British home stores, and we decommissioned our lounge. The desk kind of fell apart and went with it. And so I kind of switched to more digital drawing towards the end of 2023, because I was like, well, I've got nowhere to draw now apart from like our dining room table, and I don't want to always be using the dining room table and have it always be a mess. And so I decided that I would try. My goal for 2024 was to basically pick up my iPad and do more digital drawing. I started off with Procreate. I think a bit in 2023 I was using it Procreate, and then I think again it was November time. Oh no, it was May. Okay, so it was May 2023 that I discovered ArtSet4, and I think by like the winter of 2023 / into 2024, well, one of my goals for 2024 was to like do digital drawing, basically, because I think I'd started teaching. Yes, I had. I'd started teaching, so I was like, my time was like way more finite than I'd been used to. And so I wanted to try and get more into iPad drawing, and also it's just like so much cleaner and quicker setup. Like, I could literally do it in bed. What other art could I be making? I could not be making traditional media in my bed. And for me, that's a real win. That's a real big win, to be able to do it anything. If I can do it in my bed, if I can do it whilst sitting in my bedroom, that to me is a winner. Real pleased about that prospect. So yeah, I got into it then, and it just like grew and grew and grew, and I just fell in love with it, I think. And I even got to a stage where I've got a projector now in my bedroom, so I'd be watching YouTube on my projector, drawing in bed, all cozy with my iPad, making these digital paintings on ArtSet4, which was basically like making, it was so textural. Just like, I'd never experienced an art app before that just had such beautiful texture and such realistic texture, and it was so rich. Like, everything about it felt rich and felt so tactile, even though it was digital and even though it was iPad. And I just loved it. ArtSet4 for me is such a good app. It's so underrated. But circling back to what I was saying, even up until starting this drawing, I'd always considered myself to be an oil pastel artist first and a digital artist second, even though, to be honest, in the last year, I actually don't think I've done any oil pastel drawings in the last year, which is crazy. It is crazy. I still consider it that way round. And then I started doing this fig drawing, and it was so hard. Like, I was doing it on canvas board and whatever, and it was fine, but I just wasn't loving the process. And I just and it wasn't looking that great. And sure, it's, it wasn't looking that great because I was out of practice, but it just didn't give me the same joy. Like, I remember when I first picked up that oil pastel after my degree, and I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. I just wasn't getting that, and so I stopped. I stopped doing the oil pastel drawing, and I moved it onto my iPad, which is obviously what you're seeing in this drawing, is that I did it digitally, and I just enjoyed the process so much more. This drawing kind of made me realise that actually I am a digital artist first now. Like, that is my medium. My medium is digital art. My medium is digital drawing. And yeah, it's such a strange departure. I mean, I don't even think digital. I mean, well, I think Hockney's been doing iPad drawing since like 2011. But for me, I just like didn't even consider digital drawing as an option until, I was maybe like 23. Which, yeah, and for it to now be basically the only way I draw is such a big shift. Also, this video was going to be like a 1 hour challenge, and I was going to draw this oil pastel drawing in 1 hour. It took me an hour, honestly, to like get the drawing right and set it up right, and I think I spent an hour. I'll put a picture in of how my oil pastel fig ended up, but I think it took me an hour to get to the stage, which I will show you on the screen, which I'm not that pleased about. I was just a bit like, what the heck is going on? But the digital drawing that you've been watching me make took about 2.5 hours in total. Like, from the original video clips that I have, I was doing it in about 20 to 30 minute sessions over a whole day. So it took me a whole day, but I actually was only physically drawing for about 2.5 hours in quite short bursts. I do find 20 minutes for me really is a golden amount of time. Anything more than 30 minutes is pushing it for me. I get bored. 20 minutes is a good amount of time for me to do something, for me to engage in it, and then it's almost like my body knows after 20 minutes I'm done. I'm over it. I don't want to do it anymore, and I want to have a break. So even with something that I'm really enjoying and I'm really into, I just have to have a break after like 20-25 minutes, because otherwise I just sit there and I don't do anything. Like, if I don't switch activities every kind of 20-25 minutes, I just sit there and I'm just bored. So I kind of would do 20, 25, 30 minutes of drawing, and then I would go and like do a laundry load, or like go do something else that I needed to do, and then I'd come back and then I'd do another like 20-minute stint of drawing. So I mean, that works really well for me. I envy those who can sit there for 8 hours straight and just draw for 8 hours. Like, fair play to you, but that's so not me. That could never be me. I am way too. I just couldn't do it. I mean, I honestly don't even know how I got through those art exams, because I must have been bored out my brains. But yeah, but I was quite pleased. I think for 2.5 hours, it went really well. And the open fig section on the right side, if I do say so myself, I was really pleased with that. And it only got better when I left Procreate and I went into ArtSet4. That like right side of that fig, I was like, yes, this is what we're talking about. It's kind of like, you can see the strokes, but it's slightly blended and it's got beautiful colours. And I was just like, yes, this is it. The right side of that fig, however, there's like this shadow that like swoops, and I think there's a clip where you see me like pointing at the screen. I'm trying to explain to Dan, my boyfriend, like that it's not swooping properly when I was drawing it, and he was just there like, what are you talking about, mate? But I could see it, and I think as well, like in that clip, which is probably a while ago now, but I was taking a step back and I was looking at the whole thing, because when you are so close to it, it's hard to see like the shadows because you can see all the details, but when you stand a bit further back, you can see it for the basic forms that it is. I think this also helps if you need glasses, like I do, so I can't see so well far away. So that it means when I stand back, all I'm seeing are the forms rather than the details, and that can really help you with your shading. But yeah, that's basically it. And it came together and I was pretty pleased with it. My fig stew thing that I made as well was delicious. And yeah, that's it. That's it really. So I hope you've enjoyed this little chin wag whilst I've been drawing, and I mean, this has been probably quite long, so I hope you've had an opportunity to do what you need to do. Maybe a little bit drawing, maybe doing some of your chores. So yeah, if you've got to this far in the video, maybe let me know what you were doing whilst you were watching this or listening to this. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed my drawing of my figs and my absolutely long tangents about A-level art. And if you like this video and you want to see more in the future, consider subscribing, dropping this video a like and a comment, and I will see you next time.